Takes us to B and C. I'd recommend a motion to approve the agenda as presented, including the regular and consent agendas. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed, same sign. Takes us to patron comments. Any school district patron may present information to the board at this time. Presentations will be limited to no more than 5 minutes. The board will not take action on any issue not included on the agenda. However, all comments will be taken into consideration by the Board of Education. Patrons are requested not to discuss individual faculty, staff, or students. Patrons are reminded that this is a public forum, and comments relative to individuals could result in litigation. However, any patron may request to meet with the board in executive session. No response will be given at this time. We have one patron signed in, Ms. Jan.
Thank you. I wish to speak tonight on the wording of the ballot language for the tax levy so that my opinion may have a little bit more weight. I'd just like to tell you a little bit about my political activity. This year will begin the 64th year I've been politically active in one way or another. I became active when I was 14 in 1960, so now you all know how old I am. So. I have registered many people to vote. I've run for office 4 times, served 2 terms as an alderman, gathered signatures for 7 referenda petitions, 4 of which passed into law and or amendments to our Constitution. I've been an election judge, an election supervisor. I've knocked doors, worked the polls on election day, phone banked, and driven people to the polls. As a teacher, I am lifetime certified in English and social studies. I taught for 18 years in the public schools, and I taught American government as a per-course adjunct professor for Southwest Baptist University, Drury College, and what was then SMSU. So I hope this doesn't sound like I'm bragging. I just want you to understand that I think I know what I'm talking about in terms of getting something passed or someone elected. I suggest to the board that they remove any reference to the general fund. It will be much more difficult to sell that to the voter because as a public school teacher and interested in education for years, money that goes into the general fund doesn't always get to the teachers. I do not question your commitment to it. I'm convinced that you want more money for teachers, but this board may change in composition. If you say that the money is for teachers, you can then go to the voters and say, every penny of this increase will go to pay our teachers more. That is a very powerful argument, especially in this school district, which rightly has great support and is well aware that our teachers are not paid commensurately. If it says general fund, you will find the action of people who don't want it to pass that we have no way of knowing if the board will decide to give this money to teachers. But if you take that phrase out, and if you take out the security word, you can say every penny of this increase will go to teachers. I can live with the security staying in. You can say, for the security of our schools and our teachers. But in this anti-tax atmosphere, the voter's going to be very unsure about whether they ought to vote for a tax for one thing, and it will be spent on something else. So I strongly urge you to remove either both or at least the one, and I think your chances of getting this levy, which is desperately needed, passed. Thank you very much.
Is there anybody else in the audience that would like to address the board? Takes us to reports. Superintendent report.
Have a few highlights for you this evening from our superintendent report. First of all, when we did some branding work a few years ago, at that time we came up with kind of a unique logo for our school district, and with the goal to get it registered as a trademark, and never really got that across the finish line until recently. So our Grain Valley Schools logo is now a registered trademark, and the work that we're doing with Phase 6 edition at the high school also has an opportunity for some sports branding with a GV that is unique to us and can be used at the high school. And so we went ahead and did a registered trademark on this GV that you have as the image as well. The color, just so the board kind of knows, it's the shape of the images that is actually trademarked. It's not color exclusive. So if somebody just uses the same shapes, but they they wanted to do it in a different color, that's not a bypass around the trademark. And when we submitted the Grain Valley Schools logo, what we learned was technically that needs to be submitted as two different components. So the book-like logo is one trademark, and Grain Valley Schools technically now is trademarked. We didn't intend to trademark the words Grain Valley Schools, but it was kind of a nice byproduct of that. But because the intent is mostly around the images, that would be most likely if somebody were to use either of these images without written permission from the school district, then we would be able to expect them to stop, and we would, obviously employ legal at that point. So wanted to let you know that had moved forward. Special evening tonight, we have our leadership seminar participants with us tonight. These are teachers who are working on developing their leadership skills. They are in the year one of a 2-year program. They have been learning this year so far about each of the departments, kind of more of the behind the scenes of what goes on with each department, how they serve the students and the staff of our district, and how they interact with each other. So they join us. If you're here as part of the current cohort of Leadership Seminar, if you could stand for a moment, just to kind of show who you are. Welcome. Congratulations, and thank you for your commitment to leadership. Appreciate you being here tonight. Knowing that the ballot measure is an action item tonight, we got on the agendas at each of the schools next week. So we have a faculty meeting scheduled at each of our schools next week to just get in front of them for a few minutes, let them know what our intentions are with this ballot measure, and also take the opportunity to share some coaching with all of our school faculties. Information that we put out electronically every year about elections, just kind of the do's and don'ts of election season. But we'll talk about some of that in person next week with them. And also, just wanted to give an update that the demolition of our old district office is nearing completion. There are a couple of chimneys, brick chimneys, that are still up there. The rock and the stone that's on the site and the concrete, those types of solid materials will be buried in the site, but any of the other wood or other construction materials are being hauled off, and so that's kind of the last piece. And with the weather being kind of crazy the last couple of weeks, that's maybe with the exception of the backside windows of the Early Childhood Center. I don't know what the kids can see over their retaining wall there, but this kind of, I think the work has largely gone unnoticed, but we have been taking some progress photos that we can share out as well. So that is being done. We went ahead in your calendar of events. I want to draw your attention as a board to we tried to do the best we could, second semester highlights. And on April 2nd, you are showing retirement reception, location and time to be determined. We now know that the retirement reception will begin at 5:15 p.m. at North Middle School, followed by the April 11th board workshop, which will serve as the board's reorganization meeting following the election at 6 p.m., also at North Middle School. And then further down the calendar, there's a couple other to be determines. We think we know when the board meeting for May will be in the Snai Valley graduation, but as it gets a little closer, we'll let the high school kind of make sure that that's solid, and then we'll get that on your calendars. And then the commencement ceremony on May 20th, We're pretty sure that ceremony starts at 7 p.m., but we'll also want to be clear as it gets closer what time we want the board to be there, because we want you to come in and get gathered and settled a little bit sooner. So it's just a look ahead on the semester. I would, go ahead.
Sorry, Dr. Lowe, we don't have a workshop in March. Is that what am I reading that right?
Right, due to spring break, we'll just meet once in March. So we'll meet twice in February, twice in April, back-to-back weeks, and then once in May, twice in June. That's not on here, but you do have those on your calendar. Any other questions, either on the summary highlights or really anything in that administrative report?
I noticed on the trademark that the state of Texas isn't behind either one of those.
Yes, I have. I
Has
caught
that been addressed?
I was actually getting groceries the other day, and I took notice of the state of Texas on their Grain Valley Eagles T-shirts at the grocery store. So I didn't bother to ask anybody about it. I'm like, well, if you can sell them, you can go ahead and sell them. I don't know if there's a Grain Valley, Texas. I don't know the story, but that's fascinating.
There's some local apparel companies that print a lot of stuff for the district or just for people in the community. Would they have to seek written permission from the district?
Yeah, for our trademark GV, we don't really anticipate, we've kind of drug our heels on the district logo because we don't think anybody's actually going to sell apparel with our district logo on it. We're the only ones that do that, and our people, will wear those. But yeah, the GV is trademarked, so they would have to have our permission for that to make any money off of that. And then we do not trademark our eagle head because, well, as it turns out, we didn't design it. Somebody else might have the trademark on that one, but that.
So if somebody did seek written permission, the district wouldn't be getting a cut off the apparel sold
That's not
from a company?
we could move in that direction.
Okay.
That's not the initial intent, but yeah, that could be a possibility moving forward on the GV.
Yeah.
Anything else in the admin report?
I do have a couple of questions. On the special education section, it said the special education administrators are completing walkthroughs and then talked about the special education administrators. I'm assuming that that is just the administrator for each of those buildings that would be in charge of special education. I don't think we have specific
Yeah.
special education administrators.
It's, I think the intent is the director and assistant director. Is that right? So district level administration for special
Gotcha.
education.
That's what I thought, but I just
Yeah.
wanted clarification on that. And then my other question pertains to the high school report, but I think you might be able to answer it as well with the VIEW scholarships. So it stated that 92 students the parents that filled out the form received those letters. That's not a great return on investment with paying for that. But I don't think that that's the way other districts had handled that either, to require permission to share that information. So I just didn't know our perspective on that.
I don't know.
Because that's what I'm assuming. If parents had to sign up for it, it meant that we needed permission.
If Dr. Allen has a perspective, we'll share it. But if she doesn't, then we'll look into it and report back.
Yeah, we made the choice to do opt-in because of the privacy, the amount of information that they were requiring from students. It was beyond their name and their grades. It included Social Security and some other things that we were not totally comfortable with doing, just an opt-out measure. But they also only rolled it out, if I remember correctly, just to seniors, and their intention is each semester to roll that out then again to junior and to expand the opportunity to other grade levels that it wasn't currently offered. So it was kind of a slow rollout, if you will, to try it out for the first semester for the first time. But they do have every intention of continuing to grow the number of students that's offered to.
Gotcha. So it was more than just the transcript that was being shared, Social Security numbers were shared? Like, because it's not
Yeah,
a,
I could certainly give you the list of the required items,
Yeah.
and we can make a decision based on board policy. We felt most comfortable doing opt-in, but it's
Right.
certainly something that I could get you a list of what items that they require, and we could decide if we feel like that is something we could go opt out with.
right. No, and it's a cool, it's new, right? And
Yes.
but then seeing the cost of it and how many students were able to participate seemed not like a great return on our investment, so.
Yeah, I think part of it was the, just growing beyond just the senior class would be one. Also word of mouth, getting more people familiar with the program. And then we usually reach out to our lawyers and say, here's the items that they're requiring. Do you recommend opt-in, opt-out? And that's the direction we went, but we certainly are open to revisiting it. We would agree that we would get more participation if we did opt-out.
Yeah. Great, thanks.
Anything else?
Yeah. So I was just looking at on the Dr. Allen's side, the third-year teachers, are those third-year teachers in our district or third-year teachers overall? Like, it's their first 3 years ever teaching?
Correct.
Okay,
First
so-
3 years ever teaching.
Okay.
Yep.
And as far as the leadership seminar, I don't know if you can go into any detail as to how those individuals, was it something they signed up for, or how were they selected for that?
So every other year in the spring, because we just do one cohort at a time for a 2-year period. So last spring, we sent out basically a blast of a Google form for applications, but I also reach out to building administration and ask them to maybe tap any potential that they see to encourage application into the program. And our goal is always to do around 10 individuals. We want to keep it kind of a small group that we can learn alongside, so facilitates conversation better. And our intention is over the 2-year period to grow them not only in their knowledge of the district, but in leadership capacity for future positions. And we have groups, we have members who are interested in everything from just being better teacher leaders to instructional coaches, to reading specialists, to administrators. So it's kind of the whole gamut of leadership, if you will.
And is this the first year that this is in place?
No, it's
No.
probably since 2011,
Okay.
I think is when we started.
So with this group here, this application pool, did you have to pare it down, or was this all the applicants? Informational.
I don't recall what our exact number was, but I did select 10 who were viable in multiple ways, either years of experience or number of degrees or just level of passion and interest.
Okay. I just didn't know if there was
yeah.
already like a waiting list for
I
the
would
next
I would
group.
love that. I mean, we try to generate that, so we try to grow the program in a sense to make it more applicable and more, I think our first initial intention was just administration, to really grow future admin. And now there's so many varied roles of teacher leadership that we're really trying to improve the program every year to meet more needs so that, it continues, and it's continued very successfully. I was part of it a decade ago. So, the longevity has proven to be really good. We're just trying to expand maybe even beyond just administration at this point. So, yeah.
Okay. At the North Middle School, I was just interested in the incentive program for the Eagle Leaders field trip,
Uh-huh.
and what that field trip's going to look like, if there's any information, as well as is the 66% that qualified, is that what the target was, or is it what they thought they were going to have?
So basically, years ago, we had field trips, kind of character-based field trips at both middle schools. Over time, they kind of dwindled off. South Middle School actually brought theirs back 2 years ago. Does that sound right? 2-3 years ago. It's gone very well. So then this is North's first time of adopting it, and I think this is their baseline. So their intention is, okay, we've got this many, let's publish this out to parents, let's talk it up among the kids, and then hopefully second semester we see that number increase even more, and then the next year even more, just trying to kind of build the hype around it, if you will. So, I think this would just be their baseline data. I mean, we would love to see, in the 90s someday. I mean,
Right.
that's what we would love to see, yeah.
Okay. South Middle School.
Mhm.
So I was just looking through and it says, that I identified some 8th grade students as leaders to mentor the 6th and 7th grade students who struggle to get to school. What have been the things that have been identified as the struggles, what's causing the kids not to be able to get to school? Or have we gotten that far yet?
Well, I mean, we've experienced a struggle with attendance for as long as I've been in education. And so I think chronic absenteeism is something we work on K-12, and there's a myriad of reasons, but Mr. Myers, if you want to share what's come out just this year.
Well, what we've learned so far is the actual, having the eighth graders mentor the younger kids has already shown an improvement for the kids on those teams. So the idea was to create a connection that would be kind of vertical, so that then those kids would, as they come up, will also be able to mentor other students. But we really just, we're always looking for different ways to encourage our students to come. And sometimes when their teachers will be encouraging them, or will be encouraging them, or will be rewarding them is one thing, but to have your fellow students, especially the eighth grade leaders in the building, do it, we felt like there might be power to that. So far, that has been the case. Mr. Hastings was the one who originally initiated that. It was his idea.
So some of the reasons that they typically, or have they shared any of the reasons that they weren't attending
You know,
before?
this program really doesn't dig into that yet.
Okay.
Not that it
Yeah.
couldn't. It's more about the encouragement side. So
Yeah.
don't really have that for you. There's many reasons why.
Not very many good ones.
Well, I'm encouraged to hear that it's helping.
Jim, do you see, so you see growth out of the kids that the eighth graders are mentoring? Do you see growth out of the eighth graders? Are they learning by helping those kids? Yeah.
Right. On the leadership side, the eighth graders who've been identified as leaders in that area, they get a little bit competitive, and yes, they do pay very close attention to how their group's doing. They follow the younger kids, and if somebody is, dropping off, they will go make contact with them. It's been good for them too.
Good.
For sure.
Any other questions on the superintendent's report? Did you want to break these two out separate? Or is that just part of the report?
I will also just point out that you have an up-to-date financial summary and construction update as part of the superintendent's report, and we would certainly answer any questions associated with those as well.
Anything on those?
On the,
No, I just want to say thank you for the drone shots. It's a little easier to wrap your mind around what's going on instead of the walking
yeah,
down
our,
the hallway, so.
Great, yeah.
Those
our-
look- those
Our
look
general contractor, that's just part of the service that they provide, and when you think about the scale of what's being constructed there, it's nice to get up off the ground and get over the chain link fences and the equipment and just kind of look down and see what's going on, but making great progress there. Yes, and Dr. Gooch, is there anything you would add about the schedule or how things are going there? And then I've got a part two that I'm going to throw at you.
Okay, sure. Pardon me.
Time and money. So the first one is time and the second one is money.
Okay, so as far as time, because we were fortunate enough to get dried in for the most part by the time that the weather hit, we're still doing well in there inside painting and doing things like that. So we timed it perfectly. How's that? So we are still trending ahead of schedule.
And, we were told on the front end that getting to this point, if there was going to be a lot of expenses on the contingency side, they would be used up by now.
Correct.
So we haven't used a lot of contingency money at this point. So what are you looking at in terms of all the things we campaigned on last year about other school projects and things? Is there, what are the big things that are in? Are there any things that are still on the fence about whether or not we're going to be able to do those projects that were on that wish list from the bonds?
Sure. I would say right now we've already been able to take some of the contingency money and move it towards providing some additional activities and athletic storage outside in our facilities at our high school, and we're going to hope that trend continues, that we can put out some more additional storage buildings and things like that for our activities and athletics and our complexes there. And then there are other projects that I have had conversations with Mr. Getz about various asphalt replacements, improvements there at some various parking lots. And then honestly, we're going to be awaiting the report from the safety audit. And if there is something that is shown via the safety audit, if it is if it is something that we can address with bond proceeds and things like that, then we will utilize some of those additional funds as well to do any kind of modifications to the buildings and so on. So at this point, we were able to attack the list of all the ideas for the bond project money, and then now we've got a wish list that we're actually able to start checking some of the things off that would have been, put to a future bond, whether that was in a year or two. So I would like to compliment our architect and our contractor with what they're doing, because we've made it out of the ground, knock on wood, with relative cheap, and we have not had that kind of luck at the high school in past projects. We've various places on that campus, the soils are rough, and we got out of the ground really, really well with this project. And I'm going to be very thankful for that, because it just allows us to take those additional saved dollars and pump those back into the buildings and improve our facilities even more. So,
Thank you.
I will say I went by the old admin building, and as you'd mentioned, the old stone fireplace is still standing, and it was kind of sad to see the building gone. And we years before I came along, you guys, they did a lot of good work out of that building, and it's kind of sad to see it go.
Served us well.
So with that site up there, I mean, I'm just thinking of burying everything there. Is there any forethought or any plans for that site in the future?
I think most likely, given, once it's cleared and smoothed off, it's actually not going to look like a very big site. I think it probably serves us best moving forward is parking. If we thought that there was a likelihood that we would put another building there, we probably wouldn't bury stone and concrete there. We would just keep it. I mean, that was going to increase the cost, but we thought, what would we actually put there that didn't require very much parking, and we just couldn't think of any. Well, we thought of one thing, but I didn't like it, and that is like a food service storage building. And I'm just like, no, maybe we can, if we need a food service storage, maybe we can hide that somewhere else. We don't put it at the top of the hill, one of the highest points in Jackson County. But so we think most likely it's parking. We've not devoted any money towards paving anything there. We're just going to kind of get the site prepped, let it sit there, let grass or weeds get established, let the North Middle School families on event nights who want to park in grass rather than on pavement, it could start to be used as parking informally before we actually put rock down or asphalt in the future.
So moving forward in the future, whenever we have to do any expansion to ECC, I'm assuming it would go that direction as well. No? Not going to go that direction into the hillside?
That's part of, when we have the architects start their kind of assessment of us and our planning, starting this spring, moving into next fall, ECC, early childhood, is one of the questions. We need to add the capacity to early childhood in general, and so we want them to kind of reevaluate that whole site. We know it'll be expensive to continue to build to the north and stay on the same level because we got a retaining wall there. We know that there's I don't know what you call it, but there's a rock layer in the hillside there that gets expensive to prep. Or do you build west? Do you build north or south? So we just want them to evaluate the whole site and see what our options are.
Okay.
Short term, I'm sorry, do you have
go
another question? Short term, use of that area as a multi-purpose field, is that out of the question? Not big enough? I mean, I would think that we could make that accessible. There's electrical on the property for lights if we wanted. Is that just not
So like
realistic?
like a youth soccer, grassy soccer
yeah,
area.
the only
Yeah.
issue with we did look into that. The one issue with it is the slope of that piece of property. So if we were going to try to build up anything fairly level, we'd either have to bring down the level on the west side or bring up something on the east. And so the expense of that, looking at that property, there's other pieces of property on that entire campus that would be a little bit a better location for a temporary football or additional athletic field than it would be to try to level that specifically out for a playing surface.
we're gonna take a pretty serious look at what is downhill from North Middle School, either probably to the east, possibly to the north. It already looks like it'd be great ball fields, you know, football, soccer, infrastructure, getting vehicles in and out of there, restrooms, electrical. That'll be the cost with those types of
Yeah,
projects.
and that's what I found appealing about the current site, that a
Yeah.
lot of that's already there, but if it's not, yeah.
And we'll-
I just wanted you to think
once-
about
I
it.
mean,
if
and it's
not.
definitely, again, I did have the initial discussions with, about that specific location, and it is, you're right, there is electricity, and there's been a sewer and water line that are capped off now, and so on. It just all depends on, you know, how big we would also need to make it. If it were gonna be the size of a football field or a soccer field, that area is also would not be quite big enough between the two drives. We'd have to relocate the drive that used to come on the north side, or also the parking lot that sat on the south side between the old central office building and the early child center. Those were some reasons, again, in addition to the slope of the property. So it was just it would be possible, but the discussions quickly went to, you have a nice flat spot down in the bottom of the hill just north of North Middle School, or a lot of ground to the east. So it's not out of the question. It was just, when I first had those discussions, I was encouraged to look elsewhere.
Yeah, different topic for a different day. Thank you, appreciate it.
On the high school, on the construction update, I don't know if you want to pull up those pictures or look at them, but the green wall on top of the student entrance, is that the extent of that wall? Is that how it's going to be? I mean, not left as far as finished, but
But the size of it.
does it go around the rest of that rooftop, or is that it?
So I'm going to try to zoom in for you a little bit here on this picture. Hopefully that's sufficient there. So that is the blue wall. That will eventually
What page
be,
does he need to go to?
is this what
I
you're
think
talking-
there's a better image.
Oh, is there? Oh, here?
Yeah, that left one maybe.
And so, again, that is the blue block wall that you see that comes to the north. This is the eventual end of the C, if you will. So what's going to happen here is that will be blue, and then there will be a pillar that sits out into a little bit more to the west. It's not going to necessarily connect. If you think the north side of the high school right now, where you drive up on the high school and it says GVHS, there's going to be another visual component to that that's going to be just to the west of that wall where that stops. That's going to stop. And then there's going to be a pillar that says Eagles. And basically the idea was those illuminated places of the exterior of the building are going to signify entrance, an entrance and an exit. So the GVHS is the front office, and the Eagles is more of the activities office and in that space. And so, yes, that's the extent of the wall, but again, there's an additional pillar that's going to be put out into the parking lot.
So kind of tying into the blue wall that's at the other end of the building,
Correct.
that wall kind of rises and falls over the entrance. This one kind of rises and falls over this entrance, but those blue walls on the roof are never going to connect.
That's future.
Because most people
you
would
wouldn't
never see it.
Yeah, I mean, the idea
But it'll
is-
connect on the interior.
Correct. The Eagle Way on the interior will still continue to have that blue block in there, and then there's also the difference in the floor as well. The floor has that blue and silver speckle look to it, it will continue in this hallway like it started in the front office. But the extent of it, no. I mean, again, in addition to us illuminating it with a GVHS and an Eagle sign on this view, if you think to the east of the building where the buses come, the bus student entrances, there's blue block there as well. So those are when this is all said and done, those three are the main primary entrances of the building, and they're all signified by, in 2 cases, illuminated lights, and then in all 3 cases, a blue wall. So, did that answer your question? This is the way it's going to look, other than the pillar out in the parking lot.
Okay. Yeah.
So the shape of the green is the shape of what will be blue.
Yeah.
Okay.
To my the best of, is that how you remembered it too, Dr. Smith? That's what I.
It's not as dominant as the one on the front of the
Yeah,
building.
No,
I
and
think
it's-
once it's blue, it'll
Yeah, I mean,
It'll
you'll,
be
that,
okay.
when you drive off of Eagles Parkway
It's not
onto the
pretty.
campus, you will see a giant blue wall as well as
Yeah.
an illuminated Eagles.
Got it.
So,
That helps.
Anything else? Takes us to the MSBA report.
Dr. Gooch will pull that up for us.
hold your eardrums. When I tested it earlier, it was loud, so.
Boards Association's board report, and Happy New Year. 2023 was a year marked by technological advancements, but the year will likely be remembered as artificial intelligence's breakout year. Regardless of district size or location, AI has the potential to reshape the landscape of learning and teaching. And in the past year, some of those indications started to emerge. Sadie St. Lawrence was the keynote speaker for the first general session of the 2023 MSBA Annual Conference held in November. Sadie is the founder and CEO of Women in Data, the #1 community for women in AI and tech. During the conference, Sadie provided an overview of what AI is and its current influence on education, including both its positive contributions and potential pitfalls. At the end of the session, MSBA Executive Director Melissa Randall joined Sadie for an engaging Q&A that touched on a wide variety of topics in the world of AI. The digital divide was a topic of concern regarding internet access as well as AI.
Yes, I definitely see it as increasing that digital divide, and I think that's a key portion of why we need to address it now, right? If someone doesn't have internet access today or access to a computer and a device, and then they graduate and they come into college or go into the workplace, they're going to feel very left behind when everybody's already used to talking to their AI assistants and used to working alongside them. So I think, as educators, but as those looking at the future of our children, we really have to make sure we're addressing that digital divide now, because it's like anytime you have a hole in your pants, or it just gets bigger from there, right? So making sure that we're addressing the problem today before it starts to expand.
Sadie also addressed some of the innovations and potential in AI that can benefit education.
Yeah, the one I am still so passionate about is the personalized learning. I think anyone who has experience as a teacher would love to spend one-on-one time with students, would love to give everyone that tailored experience to understand and listen to their questions. And so I'm so excited about what this enables, just because we need individuals who are able to meet the student where they are so that they can get that best next enhancement. There's far off things that I'm also really excited about though, which is like, how do we combine AI with also the metaverse and exploring different worlds and different realms in a really visual and interactive way? We know that individuals learn all different ways, whether that's visual, audio, tactile. How do we start to integrate that into even a more personalized learning? So I think it'll be really interesting in the next 5 years to see how personalized tutoring with potentially virtual environments starts to really expand our capabilities and what we can do.
The full Q&A portion of Sadie's presentation is available on the AI resources page of the MSBA website. The AI resources page also has a basic overview of artificial intelligence and many links to find more information concerning AI in education, government, the world of safety and security, and much more. And don't miss a webinar on July 29th titled Deepfakes and AI's Impact on Local Elections. There will be an overview of AI and a discussion with leaders from MSBA, the Missouri Municipal League, and the Missouri Association of Counties about the use of AI in local elections. Visit the MSBA website for details. The 2024 regular session of the Missouri Legislature convenes this month, and education bills are likely to be a major part of the legislative agenda this year. The MSBA Delegate Assembly gathered on Friday, November 3rd in conjunction with the 2023 MSBA Annual Conference in Kansas City. Delegates approved amendments to 2 existing advocacy positions and 5 new advocacy positions. These positions are now part of MSBA's overall advocacy positions, the collection of statements that guide MSBA's advocacy on state and federal legislation. The new and amended positions can be found on the MSBA website by visiting the MSBA Action Center. MSBA will keep you informed about legislative developments throughout the session through our weekly Legislative Voice newsletter, through critical issue alerts, and through periodic webinars. And don't miss your chance to visit your legislator at the Capitol during MSBA's Advocacy Day. Known formerly as Legislative Forum, Advocacy Day is scheduled for April 9th in Jefferson City. The event will be preceded by a spring virtual meeting on March 13th and lunch and learn sessions on Fridays to provide legislative updates on the issues that matter to you. That's it for this month. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and we'll see you in February for the next MSBA Board Report.
Thank you, Dr. Gooch. Are there any comments about what they talked about?
Yeah, I think from my perspective, having a workshop at some point on AI might be a good idea. It creates a lot of opportunity, but it's also going to create a lot of issues for us and risks, and we probably need to think about those and consider policies around how we're going to utilize AI. I think we need to embrace it, but we need to control it as well.
Yeah,
Very good.
absolutely. Okay, that takes us to the discussion and action on the levy ballot issue language.
Yeah, so this has been a priority goal since really this time of year, winter of 2021, when we called on our community, really anyone in the community that wanted to come and be a part of our strategic planning process at that time as we were renewing our 5-year plan. And one of the goal recommendations that came out of that work was the importance of working towards competitive pay for our teachers and all of our employees. And so for 3 years, we've been doing some work behind the scenes to really see what it would cost, and then the appropriate time for us to go to our community and ask them to vote on tax levy ceiling, which in this case, with it being spring of 2024, it's been 20 years now since the community has voted on the levy, and we feel really fortunate for people who have been a part of the district for any length of time in there. You know, we are not the same district that we were 20 years ago, so we have really accomplished a lot and been able to financially support a lot of changes in the last 20 years. But we certainly believe that the time has come to put it back to the community. Competitive pay is our top priority. There's a lot of factors that go into what ballot language looks like, and there's certainly, the ballot language is very, very important. So how we frame this is terribly important. We've been tweaking it along the way. Highlighted in yellow is the most recent recommendation that we have for a change, because we want the focus to be on improving pay and benefits for teachers and other employees. But the rest of the statement is honestly a safeguard for the district that if something unexpected happens with state funding, then the board would be able to have all options on the table this summer in setting a budget. That is not the goal of this. That is not what we're going to campaign on. But it's the harsh reality that when we go to the voters and we ask them to raise taxes on themselves, and then if something terrible happens and we have to make decisions that are going to have an implication for the community but our hands are tied in terms of what we do with that, then it's going to, the voters wouldn't be very happy with us at that point either. So I don't expect there to be significant hardship from the state that we have to correct with the passage of this levy. I fully expect that the vast majority of this is going to be committed to improved pay for everybody. And in the conversations that the board has been having over the past 3 years, and really aggressively since November of 23, I haven't picked up on an ounce of dissent that the focus on this isn't to improve pay and have competitive pay for our teachers and all of our people. So I feel confident that we put this measure out. We campaign on it this spring. We tell people what we're going to do. They will hold us to it. So it's as a board, this is a heavy lift, and the responsibilities that you have to approve a multi-million-dollar budget every year, that is a heavy and serious responsibility. And I think I stand behind the recommended ballot language because it keeps all options open should something bad happen with state funding, which again, we don't expect, but if it did, we'd have to be prepared, and we would have to explain to our patrons what we're doing and why we're doing it. So transparency is the key all along the way. And my message to staff next week, when I go to each of the school faculties, will be exactly that. This is what we plan to do, and as we have more details about what that salary schedule will look like this spring for teachers, and then what the raises will look like for our hourly folks in our administration, we'll roll that out. And before people go to vote, they'll know exactly what we intend to do. And what the experts tell me is that for the voter out there who doesn't know anything about this measure, and they're reading about it the first time, the day they go to vote, you're probably not getting a yes on it, no matter how you word this language. So how well we are at getting the word out is going to be really important, and is going to have much more higher bearing on the ultimate outcome of the ballot measure than the finer points of the language itself. I would open it up for any questions or discussion or any statements before we take a vote. And then when you take action today, and our president has the actual language, it's worded a little bit different. It's because you're making a resolution. So when everybody's ready, the president will read the resolution language and ask for somebody to use that as their motion.
Any comments, questions? I know we've talked about it a lot, but we want to make sure we do it right.
When do we anticipate knowing the financial shortfalls of the district, or potential shortfalls?
At this point, the state adequacy, the student adequacy target put out by the state is one of the main variables. And right now, the tool that we are using that's put out by DESE for us to calculate what we can expect a year from now and 2 years from now shows a growth of the SAT, the student adequacy target. So really, we're a go unless something bad happens this spring, or if there's something with the legislature that looks like there's going to be something wonky that happens. I think what's going to be really important, we're going to put word out right away that the board has authorized a ballot measure for the election in April. So we'll put word out on that right away. But the actual campaign about the finer points about what this is going to do and what it isn't going to do, that's usually 4 to 6 weeks out from the election. So by middle to end of February, we're going to have to be feeling pretty good about what we're going to campaign on and what we're not going to campaign on. But again, anything could happen after that. But we'll campaign on what we know at that time, and just like we are tonight, we'll be transparent about what the what-ifs could be. And for some people, that might be enough that they don't want to give us their yes vote, but I think the transparency is crucial.
Without this money, if this ballot measure didn't exist, how would the district overcome a financial shortfall? If this money weren't there, if 100% of this money went to staff, how would we overcome that now if this didn't exist?
We'll put the numbers to that as probably in March, so that you can kind of see what that would look like and what the impact is. But for us to make up, let's say it's $1.2 million shortfall, I don't know today how we would make that up. We can handle a blow like that if it's a one-year issue.
Yeah.
But my concern would be is if they don't adjust the SAT this year for the upcoming budget year, then if it doesn't happen now, when would it happen? It hasn't happened for the last 4 to 5 years. So I'd be worried not about next year's budget, because next year's budget we'd find a way. But then if it's not going to be made up the following year, that's when we're dipping in reserves. And as soon as we start dipping in reserves, then we have trouble making payroll in November and December, and the bank's issuing us notes to make payroll, and we don't want to be in that kind of a financial situation as a district. We're in really good financial standing right now because we are operating within our means, and I think that's the point of your question. How do we live within our means if those means change? And we'd have to study that. I wouldn't want to speculate.
Well, and I
too
think,
much.
I'm not speaking for other board members, but I feel there's probably a unanimous consent that this money be used for staff.
Yeah.
And security, you know, the staff of the students. So I would just encourage everybody, as we've done, to make sure that happens. I think it's an exciting time. I really do. I know Dr. Will, you've advocated for this for years, and other board members have too. So, yeah, I'll leave it there.
Anything else? So I'd ask for a resolution calling for a special election to be held on April 2nd, 2024, to authorize an increase in the district's operating tax levy by 65 cents per $100 of assessed value.
So moved.
Second.
Jared? Yes. Sarah?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Jason?
Yes.
Yes.
Lance? So the resolution has been passed.
Thank you.
That takes us to the budget planning process for the next year.
Yeah, I want to focus on the timeline. You know, the budget planning process every year is a really important undertaking. It's, as we've just been talking about, it's going to have more significance this year in terms of the timing. So just to kind of give you a general overview, usually by October of the school year, we are inquiring with our directors and our principals, you know, what are the big changes and the financial implication for those big changes that they anticipate they need. Usually it's personnel changes for the upcoming year. And so we start gathering those. This is the time of year that we kind of revisit the timeline with the board. By February, we are meeting with our administrative team and we're saying, look, this is not an exaggeration because this tends to happen. Here are the 15 new employee positions that have been requested as a district. We can afford 4 of them in our budget planning. And so we work through, you know, I'm not bashful about weighing in to say, hey, look, the way I see it, this is how we should rank them. But we really want to make sure that we've thought of everything. So we ask our school leaders to weigh in with us on that list. This is where we're going to need to be really disciplined moving into the spring because we haven't had a levy issue in 20 years. And there's a lot of things we wish we were doing that you know, we do the best we can. And I think we're really proud of the decisions we do make and the areas where we excel because of where we've devoted resources to over time. But we've got to be disciplined around our commitments. And in another month or so, there are some obligations that we will recommend that we commit to early on because the services that are provided, failing to provide those services to those students would create other problems for us. So like, for example, if our caseloads justify or kind of hit a threshold where we need to add a special education teacher, well, that special education teacher is probably moving to the top of the list. So, and not only that, but because hiring high-quality special education teachers is so important to us, we're going to want to get ahead of the game as quickly as possible. So even though you're not going to authorize the budget until the end of June, if we waited till the end of June to post that new position, we might as well not even bother posting it. So we will ask that there's a handful of positions that get authorized as soon as late February that we're going to take right off the top. And then I'm not going to call it a full-on hiring freeze, but behind the scenes, we're operating as though we have a hiring freeze. Because if we get carried away on the positions that we hire for next year, then that's going to cut in. That is going to cut into the raises, and the raises are number one, and that's what we need to do. Here's the thing, and here's the other hopefully good news. If the state carries through on increasing the SAT, like it looks like they plan to do, they're only going to raise it halfway. Even that 50% of the total increase that we get for next year is going to help us offset our otherwise negative shortfall. That's only half. Then a year later, we'll see the other half of the SAT and we will have our raises, and we'll have our new teacher salary schedule structure, and that will be an opportunity for us to maybe branch out and say, you know, from a behavioral standpoint, we wish we could have these supports in our school and these new positions, and maybe from an academic standpoint, maybe these are additional positions that would really be creative uses of resources. So a year from now, I'm just going to kick that one down the road, and I'm going to say a year from now will be the time to be creative and inventive about new positions. This year, any new positions that we bring to the board, say by the end of February, that we're going to ask to commit to and take off the top, it's because they're going to be critical. And but we'll talk about those next month, and then it'll give a chance for the board to let the administration know if you're with us or not on where we drew the line on that. Then by March, we'll be putting numbers before the board on potential revenues. It says draft priorities are reviewed by the board in March, but there's some of those I think we're going to want to do in February. And then from April to May, we're revising the budget. Really, the budget that we bring, the draft that we bring to the workshop on June 6th, our goal is for that to be about 95% of where we think the budget is going to fall, so that when you bring it back for action on June 27th, there might be some tweaks, but it looks pretty much like what you've had a few weeks to sit on. And in between those two meetings, we'll do some sort of public state of the district address, so that the world can know kind of what we have in mind. Last year, what we did is we put out a YouTube video in early June and kind of marked our highlights of kind of a state of the district, and actually it was pretty well received. So we might do it different, but that worked for us last year, and so we might end up doing that again. We just carried over the same CSIP budget priorities. I will add that on number 4, where it says other projected cost increases, this is where, as we plan for next year's budget, we come off of the safety audit. Safety could be more explicitly listed under these CSIP budget priorities. So I would say, you know, we're not locked in on these for another whole budget year cycle, but right now, safety falls under other, but safety could become a standalone. That's probably the direction that we're headed. And then just list some other financial challenges that we face. Several of these we've talked about. You've heard me say multiple times. But any reaction or questions on kind of the outline of the calendar?
I mean, I think the outline, I think everything you put together is very thought through. I know there's a budget committee meeting in February. How many other budget committee meetings do you foresee between that February and June timeframe?
There's at least one more. I don't remember if there's 2 more or not. We tried to give them kind of hey, here's the minimum of what we're thinking, but with that group this year, with the levy and things, we kind of gave them the caveat that, hey, we may call you in again, you know, if we have other things we need to flush out. But certainly in February, and then I was thinking again in May.
As we approach the finalization of the budget that we'll
Yeah.
bring to you.
Yeah. And this is the first year with those committees, and so one of the things we did not anticipate that, you know, we'll be transparent with along the way and kind of get the board's reaction to is, you know, we're used to the board seeing all the numbers first, and now we have these committees in place, and so ideally, the board would see all the numbers first, then we take it to the committee so that they could see it, drill down, maybe take some comments or reactions from the board and say, hey, here's the feedback we got from the board, what do you think, and then bring it back. But the schedule doesn't always do that, so there might be times this spring that committee has seen something before the board is, but ideally we would avoid that. But again, just because that's how it feels right to me, I don't know if that's how the board feels about it. But again, all these committees are new in terms of, you know, the community engagement efforts that are underway, and that's one of the little things we'll probably reflect on before we kick off next year's schedule for that.
Anything else? Brings us to the calendar.
Yeah, we don't have a calendar for you yet, but I'm gonna turn this over to Dr. Gooch and kind of share what that process looks like and what to expect.
Sure. So we will bring forward to you guys, hopefully a recommendation soon at the next workshop, and then a vote for approval by next month. I sent out invitations this afternoon to our calendar committee, and the idea is that I'm gonna approach with them is an opportunity for us to kind of balance out the number of minutes each of our schools attend. Right now, there's a slight imbalance between all three levels of our school, and so if we are able to balance back out the number of minutes that all of our students are in session, that actually gives us an opportunity as a district to add a professional development and a teacher workday to our calendar, and also still attend school more hours than we did currently this year. Not by much, but it's still, if you're familiar, we're required to go above 1,000, or to attend for 1,044 hours, and we exceed that. But really the hopes for next year, it would be to have a calendar that is similar-ish to this year, however, enhance the opportunity for our teachers to have an additional PD and additional workday. So, but I'll be bringing that with some other recommendations and stuff to you guys in a couple weeks. So that's just the initial update.
Comments, questions about the calendar? Okay. Takes us to adjournment. Jason?
I move to adjourn and go into executive session as authorized by the provisions of Section 610.021, numbers 3 and 13 of the revised statutes of Missouri.
Jared? Sarah?
Yes.
Jeff?
Yes.
Jason?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. We're adjourned in executive session. Thanks, everybody, for coming and spending time with us.